Practically every morning I trundle along this road to the cafe here and I start work. This is a beautiful square and it's right next to where I live. All the work that I've done is connected to where I live, where I come from, where my girlfriend comes from. It's got my family, my friends and my band in it. I'm connected to this place. This is an intro to the More Than Music project, and it's also a bit of an intro to me, describing what I think about art and music. And I like talking about crocuses and beautiful architecture and seagulls and dog business and cones. And the chance to move around showing full-length pictures of myself and colliding with trees. Since I was about, I don't know, 12 or 13, I've been really interested in the idea of the troubadour and the storyteller in music. As a kid I watched Jake Thackeray on the Braden Beat, and he would produce current affairs songs, funny ones, really sexy songs that would basically document the way our life is. A troubadour, Bruce Springsteen, said that writing is the old job of putting yourself in someone else's shoes while you've got one foot in your own shoes, which sounds quite a good idea. So the idea that your artwork should be based on who you are and where you come from, which is what mine is, and this is where I come from here. I mean, rock and roll as an art form has been going for 50 years. I mean, basically, rock and roll, as people see it, as young people see it, is a death cult, which is great. I mean, you're supposed to die at 27 if you've got any credibility. You're supposed to be drugged up to the eyeballs. You're supposed to be self-destructive. I mean, I saw a program, it pains me to say it, I saw a program with U2 and Bono talking about it, and he was talking about the idea that rock and roll peaks earlier than other art forms. The idea that painters, poets, writers do their best work in the later part of their life when they've had experience, and when the rock and rollers are actually dead. Martin Scorsese said that the artist's job is to make people care about your obsessions and see them and experience them as their own obsessions. Nick Cave's quoted as saying that making a record every year, recording it, performing it and doing one the next year is very, very easy. And if you write songs, that is true. And it means that you can be more or less out of it for most of your life and still get away with it. If you want to do what they would term serious art, it does require a bit of a work ethic. I decided that this year I'd try to bring together all the different things I do into one project, which is why it's called More Than Music. I like to think that the songs and the projects that I do are part of the art spectrum in some way. Not highbrow art, but part of the art spectrum. So it connects in with the idea of storytellers and human stories. I wanted to bring together different ways of expressing stories. You can probably see why I'm interested in producing something that is more of a multimedia piece of work. I've made, I don't know, 17 albums, something like that. And the recent ones have involved filmmaking, and one of them had a book, and a book of poems with it, and a book of short stories. And what I wanted to do in More Than Music is draw together all the different things that I do into one art form. I see musical arrangements as very similar to paintings. And so once we had the basic grooves, like the background and the structure from Sam, then what I wanted the colour and the textures to come from the things that Matt does on keyboards. And so that's the way we did it. So we created a crucial groove first of all, and then colour from Matt. And we rehearsed these, we rehearsed the songs up as a band and worked them together to make sure they work first of all. Because in the studio for me should be a matter of capturing performance rather than working everything out. I don't work that way. Some people make records over years. I can't do that. I wanted all the best aspects of a live record, but you need much more than that. Recording a record needs to be listened to hundreds of times with different things coming through at each stage. So it's not exactly a live record, but you want the spontaneous element rather than the live element. One way of getting that is by all playing together in the studio and setting up in a certain way. We all set up in the same room. screened off so that you can interact in a more natural way. You've obviously got headphones on, but you can see one another. I think it's probably the most dynamic album I've ever made. I'm a very big fan of light and shade and dynamic in music, and this record certainly is. It's got huge variations of colour, huge variations of arrangement, from simplest possible sounds to full pieces of music that have got almost an orchestral feel to them. The Flat Earth Society is an experimental big band, a classical big band really. They're a group of very talented musicians from Belgium, and I worked with half of them on the record. Christophe Roseo, who's a friend of mine, was a contrabass player, and he managed to persuade some of his colleagues to come and work on the record. Because, as I said earlier, we had the basic grooves from Sam and the basic colours from Matt, but what I wanted was a real orchestral, atmospheric texture. And we spent one day rehearsing them, and they were frantically trying to learn everything. And I said, no, I don't want you to learn it, just play. So we gave them an idea of the structure. And then we recorded 11 tracks in one day. Steve Forward was the engineer-producer for Ray Charles, so he's very good at organic sounds. And he recorded both the real-world sessions and also the sessions in Belgium. Writing songs has always been my way of telling my stories and other stories. To actually make and edit the films myself seemed to be a natural conclusion to that process, or a natural extension of that process anyway. And the actual art piece, as you put it, is a piece of artwork that goes with the song. So they have an individual song for them, and they also have a creative art piece. I've been commissioned to write a song for this fella, and so I've written a song especially for him, which is actually about his wedding and about splitting up with his wife and getting back together again with his wife. He was in Canada, hence the Bears, and my challenge was to write a romantic song about Duisburg, which I did, which they played for their wedding. So that's the artifact itself. It opens up, and inside I will put in a CD of their song, and I'll put in their artwork. This is the artwork that surrounds the song that I wrote for them. That's an artifact. This is another drawing that I've done for an artifact called Hope, which is a ballerina taping up her toes before she walks. Some people ask me for specific words. They'll ask me for types of music. I said, do you want an up song, a down song, a cuddly song, a Hispanolic song, a groovy song? And then I record the song just on guitar, and I send them a recording of it. So they've commissioned a song from me, and they get the song, and they also get commissioned artwork in the form of the artifact, which I've just waved around. In the galleries, I was showing up to 30 of the individual artifacts on a wall, because the collective effect of seeing them together makes things clearer. It's a video installation on one side of the gallery, and on the other side of the gallery is an exhibition of artifacts. I mean, the people who come into the galleries, some of them are very specifically art people, and so it's a very different audience from a live audience. It's the combination of the different forms together that makes it more than music, because there are the songs, there are the films, there are the artifacts, and the process of interacting with people to write songs for them is also part of the art form. It's a communication art form, and so it's different facets making up one whole. So I'm not too sensitive about how each individual bit works. It's the whole. It's the overall. It's the combination of the different elements and how they work that's most important. In the More Than Music live show, I start by performing some of the commissioned songs and telling some of the stories behind those songs. And then later in the set, the whole band come on and we play all the More Than Music songs. I've really enjoyed all the different aspects of the More Than Music project, and I found it very fulfilling. It's been quite challenging, not the least of which is to understand the technology of editing film on computers. And fortunately, the technology is developed to such a stage now where it doesn't get in the way of actually making things. The idea of putting over human stories, saying something about your society as well as about the human beings in it, and also from the 60s and 70s tradition of attempting to change the world. The idea that can you change the world with art on pop music? Well, the answer is possibly. You can make people aware of things. Doesn't change things in itself,